Good to be together. And I want to say we're glad you're here. And it is offering something from the Word of God that will be an encouragement to us. The text for our lesson this morning comes from the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. The book of Proverbs is a book of wisdom. It's a book of instruction, if you will, in the things that are right. Chapter 24, verse 1 says, "Be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them. For their heart studieth destruction, and their lips talk of mischief." It's kind of an interesting premise here, be not envious against evil men. And there's an element perhaps within us that sometimes would be envious of the stature, if you will, of wicked men and evil men. Now, the Christian hopefully has conquered that desire, but the wise man extended this bit of wisdom to us today through the written word. Be not envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them. Did you ever meet somebody that falls into the category described here? Category of an evil man. And, the wise man says it's not a good thing. Desire to be with them, to choose them, if you will, over a Christian companion or associate. Neither desire to be with them. Young people do kind of crazy things. Young people, as in preschool, elementary school, and I don't know that it ever stops, but years ago, when the small towns were thriving, it's been quite a while ago, but we would go to the town on Saturday. That was town day. You go to town maybe Thursday evening because the store stayed open, or you went to town on Saturday, and that was town day, a time you went to get your necessities for the next week or more, and catch up on all the news around town and such. And Greenfield is where my mother was from. And so we would go there to shop, and Greenfield has a square like many small towns in Iowa do. And in those days, you could walk around the square, from one store to another. You didn't necessarily get in a car to go from this store to 3 stores down, We kind of do that today because we're not too ambitious. But, then you would walk around the square, and there'd be benches and old men sitting on the benches watching the people go by, and my mother would tell me that she would try to get me to say hello to the good, desirable people sitting on the benches, and I would always be more friendly towards the less desirable men. I don't know why, but I have grown out of that. And yet, we stop and think about a Christian, we're not to screen our subjects, if you will. We're to teach everybody the gospel. And so there's an element of interaction that we need to have with the wicked men, and that's to teach them the gospel, to help to improve their lives and to prepare them for eternity. But Solomon, the wise man, the author of Proverbs, extends this caution, don't be envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them. For their heart studieth destruction, and their lips talk of mischief. And so he describes the kind of people that, we need to be on guard for and careful about, and not to become too closely associated with, outside of the desire, the option, the opportunity to present the gospel to them. Begin reading in verse 11. Actually, we'll begin reading in verse 10, Proverbs chapter 1. The wise man says, My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, Come with us, let us lay wait for blood, let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance, we shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us, let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them, refrain thy foot from their path. For their feet run to evil, and make haste to shed blood. Solomon describes for his sons in these verses, and remember that I think it's the first 9 chapters of the book of Proverbs is father's specific instruction to his children, sons in particular. And he says, if these sinners entice thee, consent thou not. In other words, if someone tries to draw you in to the group, get you to do something evil, something wrong, then Solomon says, consent thou not. He continues, if they say, Come with us, let us lay wait for blood, and let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Solomon goes through the whole 9 yards, so to speak, here about what they do. They lay in wait for the innocent. In verse 12, let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. And we shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. There should be some real warning flags there, I think. Particularly, appealing to the desire to improve your station in life. In other words, in this case, they're trying to entice you to join them in stealing and other kinds of mischief. But when they say, cast in thy lot among us, let us all have one purse, that should be a real big red flag. And Solomon goes on to say, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. And then he gives a good reason. He says, for their feet run to evil when they make haste to shed in blood. We have the admonition to live a pure life, and the caution is presented. And the idea is to choose your companions wisely. In Proverbs chapter 14, in verse 12, Proverbs 14 and verse 12, it says, there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Now we need to be aware that there's all kinds of people appealing for our possessions, our what have you. And God has said through Solomon that even though there's a way that seems right to a man, the end thereof are the ways of death. In other words, don't allow the ways of men to supersede the instruction of the Holy Writ. Then in chapter 16, verse 25, you know, it's so important to Solomon. We understand this, that he said it twice. He says, there is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. We opened the lesson this morning with Proverbs 24 and verses 1 and 2. Where he says, be not thou envious against men, and desire to be with them. For the heart studieth the desire of evil men. In Psalm 37, beginning in verse 1, the psalmist says, fret not thyself because of evildoers. Neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. He's saying pretty much the same thing we read in Proverbs. Verse 2, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as a green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good. So shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. So he says, don't worry so much about evildoers. Don't be envious of these workers of iniquity. Why? Because their ways are soon come to an end. He says in verse 2, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as a green herb. but do this. In verse 3, he says, trust in the Lord and do good. So shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. You don't have to resort to it looks good for now, but what happens when they get caught? You know, I would hope that none of us would like to trade places. So their lifestyle was good for a little while. But the psalmist said, rather than that, trust in the Lord and do good. So shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily they shall be fed. So these workers of iniquity, these evil men, we may desire to look to join them because of their possessions and such, but without taking notice of how long it's going to last. You know, they ultimately get caught in the end. So the cure that the psalmist presents more direct course to where we want to go. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, beginning in verse 1. Thessalonians 3, beginning in verse 1, the Apostle Paul writes to the saints in Thessalonica, finally, brethren, pray for us that the word of the Lord may have free course and be glorified, even as it is with you, and that we may be delivered from unreasonable and wicked men. For all men have not faith. But the Lord is faithful, who shall establish you and keep you from evil. And we have confidence in the Lord touching you, that ye both do and will do the things which we command you. The psalmist said, trust in the Lord. Apostle Paul that the word of the Lord might have free course, and pray that we may be delivered from unreasonable and wicked men, because the Lord is faithful, who shall establish you and keep you from evil. And then in Revelation chapter 2, Revelation 2, verse 2. Always right as John is giving the revelation, and he's writing to the church. And he says in verse 2, I know thy works, and thy labor, and thy patience, and how thou canst not bear them which are evil. And thou hast tried them which say they are apostles and are not, and hast found them liars, and hast borne and hast patience, and for my name's sake hast labored and hast not fainted. He's commending them for what they have done. Their good works, their patience, and helping one another. That's the cure. I want to call your attention back to Psalm 37. And we'll begin reading again in verse 1. We're going to read a little farther this time, and hopefully you'll find something here. Psalm 37, beginning in verse 1. Fret not thyself against the workers of down like the grass, and wither as the green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good. So shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Delight thy desires of thine heart. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. And he shall bring forth thy righteousness as the light, and thy judgment as the noonday. Rest in the Lord, and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because the man who cease from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil, for evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Yea, thou shalt diligently consider his place, and it shall not be. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. The wicked plotteth against the just, and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. The Lord shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming. There's a lot of good information in this psalm. The admonition to trust in the Lord, and to delight in the Lord, to commit thy way unto the Lord. That's an important step in dealing with evil men. And it's important for us to put these things into practice, to commit our way unto the Lord, and to trust in him, and he shall bring it to pass, the scripture says. Don't fall into the trap laid by evil men. We need to give ourselves totally unto the Lord. If you're here this morning and have some need to respond to heaven's invitation, the time is now. If we can assist you in any way, we encourage you to come and let it be known as together we stand and sing.
All is ready, come to thee, come for the table now is spread. He has